You've tuned into The Break Room, a weekly conversation about how the city of St. Augustine works from those who do the work every day. Hosted by the City of St. Augustine's Communications Manager, Melissa Wissel, The Break Room offers a closer look at the city's programs and provides updates on current and upcoming projects. And now your host for The Break Room, Melissa Wissel.
Welcome to The Break Room. Thanks for stopping by. I'm Melissa Wissel, Communications Manager for the City of St. Augustine. This week on The Break Room, I have invited back J.B. Miller, city's land management coordinator, who previously joined us to talk about Fish Island. And quite frankly, J.B., we ran out of time.
We did.
There is a lot to talk about, and we're going to just pick up where we left off. Just to catch everybody up, we were talking about the acquisition of the property. The city is now going to be the keeper of the property, if you will. We're still in the process, though, of getting the management plan pulled together, and there's a group that will be appointed. Let's just start with that. Give us that background of what is a management plan, how does the city's role play into that, and then bringing in those participants to be in the advisory group.
Yeah, last time we pretty much got up to where we are today, and now we're going to look forward.
Yes.
And so there'll be a management plan written, and the management plan is a big document with a lot of information. Again, I think I mentioned this last time, is that it's going to be a management plan that looks like a state park or a state forest or a wildlife management area type management plan with a lot of detail about the natural and cultural resources. And this property has all the above.
There's a huge history we haven't even touched on in terms of the history of the land.
The prehistoric and historic, it's just, it's remarkable. And it is a very beautiful place. And if you live anywhere near there and have the ability just to kind of swing by there and take a nice, beautiful little hike, it's going to be very special. But anyway, so the management plan will have a lot of detail, a lot of information. It also looks forward 10 years. And you know, what are you going to do over the course of the next 10 years? And also it has a budget.
Right.
So it's a very detailed plan. And it goes to the state of Florida for approval. There's a process that, again, all the state parks and all the state forests all go through for all these plans.
So this isn't like a property manager where you've got a property and you hire the rental agency to maintain it and manage it. They keep an eye on it. This is very comprehensive. Like you just said, the state has to approve it. There's a 10-year plan to it. So this isn't just trim some trees and...
No. The meat of the plan could easily be 50, 60, 70 pages, and there are lots of addenda, a lot of information. But you got to figure out, first thing you have to do on any piece of property is figure out, what do you have? What are the natural resources out there? And, of course, we know what a lot of the cultural resources out there. We have to learn those because you really can't plan anything until you know what you have. And so that's the process that I've been in for the last couple months. And the plan, I've already started writing the plan. I'm probably maybe a third to almost a half of the way through the plan draft. But a big part of the plan is, what are you going to put out there? What amenities, what recreational amenities are you going to allow? And that's, again, a lot of people will have input onto that, not just the local community, but of course the city commission and the state of Florida. They may not, they see certain things that they would like to see out there and maybe not other things. And
we'll come back to how we get that public input. There's a questionnaire, but when you talk about the amenities and things out there, we're talking things like there are trails, so we need to clean that up. Do we put out markers or historical? Yeah,
kiosks. Yeah, that's the kind of things that I, think would be out there on a typical piece of property like this.
Okay.
Would be a simple, a small parking area, a simple trail system, marked trail system, so people can, know where they're doing and where they're going, and interpretive kiosks for sure, because there's so much to tell.
Unfortunately, this isn't going to be an overnight thing where we can suddenly just tell folks, okay, you can go out there. But the idea is that the sooner we can get the plan submitted to the state, get the approval back, get the commission's blessing, we then will be able to open the park. People will be able to come and visit while all of these amenities or historic markers or interpretive kiosks or whatever it is that is decided, that will be an unfolding project.
Yeah. Once the lease has been signed and approved, then and we can get approval for the small parking area, then technically the property can be open.
Okay.
So we'll probably there are some existing roads out there, of course, and so we'll come up with a a Blaze trail system that people, will be able to follow, have information on the website that you can look at a map so you know where you're walking. But there'll be, I'm sure, no other amenities. Maybe might put a picnic table or something.
Right.
It would be very minimal.
Well, that's a big piece of property. By virtue of managing it, if we put stuff out there, there's got to be somebody who goes out there to make sure litter, keeping it cleaned up, maintaining it. I mean, that's just the mechanics even, not just the big picture.
No, it
the day-to-day.
It is. It's got to, nobody wants to be walking out there and seeing somebody else's trash.
Right.
But one thing it is kind of interesting, and a lot of the state agencies have learned in an area that's kind of doesn't have a large presence in terms of people that work for it. Like a state park, you go into through an entrance in a lot of state parks. But those state parks don't have much of an entrance, but they don't typically put trash receptacles because then people throw all their trash and they overflow. So pack in, pack out type mentality is what I'm suggesting the city consider. Probably have trash receptacle right there at the smart
entrance,
parking area, of course. But hopefully people. But yes, somebody's going to have to go through there. The law enforcement's going to have a presence, both the city as well as the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission, since it's state-owned piece of property. So yeah, they'll help us out, I'm sure. But we'll be picking stuff up.
You're listening to The Break Room. I'm Melissa Whistle, Communications Manager for the City of St. Augustine. This week, we are continuing the conversation with J.B. Miller, City's Land Management Coordinator, who is here to help us take on and manage Fish Island. J.B., we've been talking about the management plan and the advisory group and the website. At some point, the questionnaire will not be out in the public. However, it's important to have something like this questionnaire because we do very much want public input of the people who are integral in getting the property, people who are now living here, people who now understand that this property will be available. Let's touch on those questions. You mentioned not just activities, but amenities. And we've talked a little bit about it. You said we've gotten almost 500 replies. That's huge.
In a week and a half.
In a week and a half to put a survey out. What are you hearing? What are you seeing people are asking for? Can you give us any insight into what people are telling us?
I mean, as I think I mentioned last week, the first question is, what kind of recreational activities would you like to see? And there's a list of ones that we've talked about internally, and then the state has suggested on a piece of property like that. And then there's an other category. So people have been submitting lots of ideas. One of the things, probably the most common other, is water-based access.
Oh, okay.
That is probably by far the biggest in terms of numbers. I haven't counted them all up, but and that's something. When I first got there, I thought, well, wouldn't it be wonderful if you could canoe and kayak? Of course, you have a county boat ramp right across
the river.
The river there. To be able to canoe or kayak at the very least, and then land, and walk around and enjoy it, just a place to disembark. That property doesn't lend itself to that. At low tide, you have to walk through hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of feet of muck and marsh to get to it. There is no one creek that gets up close to any of the landmass, unfortunately. So it doesn't look like water-based activities will be. I mean, somebody could fish out there if they want to do it at high tide, but I don't think water-based activities, unfortunately, will be something that can be done there. But all the other wonderful recreational activities, the birding and the walking and just nature appreciation, and of course learning about an important part of the history of St. Augustine. I think a lot of historians are just blown away that a lot of people don't know much about someone who was so important in a period of time in Florida, and of course the city of St. Augustine.
Could we see something like a bike trail?
Well, I mean, typically
or a walking trail.
Well, I think it would be both. I mean, typically the existing road, and when I say road, it's paths.
Right.
The existing paths out there are wide enough that you could have multiple use. So I would think it would be people riding their bikes and walking.
Okay.
No motorized vehicles out there for sure, because it's even though we think it's big at 59 acres, it's not that big.
Right.
And so it'd be pedal and walking power only.
There you go. Well, and it's a beautiful piece of property. I've been down inside those little
The
little
hammock areas.
groves, those little areas. They're the little grottos. They're really, it's very pretty. But in the heat of summer, it does get rather buggy.
Oh, yeah.
And, and when you talk about amenities, things like benches, picnic tables, trash cans.
Yes, those
could
types
be.
of things. Yeah, oh, absolutely. And certainly interpretive kiosks. That might be, it's unfortunately one of the more expensive parts of it, because to have a good kiosk that'll last a long time out there, they're very expensive. But anyway, we'll deal with that when the time comes. But
Sure.
That's what you want to tell, the story of Fish Island, both from a cultural standpoint, but also what you're seeing out there. And anybody that walks out there, I always tell them, 200 years ago, this was all citrus grove.
Right.
Now you're looking at, 80-foot high live oaks and pignut hickories and all these beautiful trees. But you just have to keep in your mind that, wow, that was all citrus.
Right.
And which is pretty amazing, how fast Mother Nature can
Right.
can heal.
In our lifetime, it doesn't seem like very much, but you look back on it and it's quite a transformation from what it used to look like.
Yeah, and it does. It has a great story to tell. So that'll be, yes, people can recreate out there and walk and bike and enjoy themselves. It's very flat, so it's not going to be challenging for bicyclists, except it'll just be a nice, mostly shaded bike ride, which will be very nice, especially if you live, very close by. So yeah, those are the types of amenities we're talking about. We've talked about possible like overlooks and, but you start building boardwalks and overlooks. They're very, very expensive, and they're very expensive to maintain.
Well, that's where I was thinking was it sounds great, but then you say, ooh, but then there's a maintenance. And sometimes that natural passive park, similar to what we have down at Robert B. Hailing Freedom Park down at the end of Riberia, there is a path, but very low maintenance down there because the whole idea is that it's quiet, it's peaceful. You just go down and enjoy it for exactly what it is, which is nature. Beautiful
Pure
piece
nature
of land.
appreciation. Yeah, that's
Beautiful
it.
piece of land.
And this again is a very beautiful piece of land. The city is so fortunate to have it in its boundary. That was such a big deal, and so many people worked so hard to make this happen.
Well, we are so pleased to have you in this position to oversee all of this. Like you mentioned, the city, in and of itself as government, we don't have large pieces of land property like that. We don't have a Parks and Rec department. We certainly have Public Works and Streets and Grounds folks and the people that maintain, but we're certainly so glad to have you to oversee this. What do you see? One other question I had for you in terms of the advisory group coming in, their role. Now I'm going to name a few of them and I may not mention them all. We have Department of Environmental Protection, Florida Fish and Wildlife, Florida Forest Service, Soil and Water Conservation District, Anesthesia Mosquito Control, North Florida Land Trust, which we mentioned was very instrumental in helping this acquisition, Florida Public Archaeology Network, St. Augustine Archaeological Association, and I believe there's also an opportunity for some local individuals who can apply to participate or that we may reach out to.
No, it would be
that's
groups.
A wide range of people. That's tremendous.
It is, and that's what you want. You want everybody's different aspects. It'll also be in conservation groups such as the Matanzas Riverkeeper, Fish Island, Audubon Society.
Great.
They'll have one representative, and local landowner as well.
Great.
A private landowner. Everybody giving a little different perspective and helping us, in our decision making and what we'd like to see moving forward. So it's a really important group. But it is a one-time thing, and of course you can rely on those people hopefully later for some input, but maybe not as a group. But they'll have an interest in it because they've spent some time on it. But it's just this one time. Give us your thoughts, and it's not a group that likely. And we could get them together anytime we want, but it's not like it's appointed by the commission.
Right.
It is a voluntary group.
Those groups are contacted just to offer their representative. Now, you are the author of the plan.
Yes.
You're doing the research. You've got you've shown me some really cool maps that you've discovered and unearthed. And as we unveil all of this, it will be on the website. So we want to make sure that folks know citysaint.com/Fish Island. There's videos, there's pictures, there's an outline of the group that we just talked about, the advisory group. the materials. There's a timeline. So tons and tons of information. And that is also where anybody's going to go and find information as you start to push this information out, making those discoveries.
Yeah, for those that kind of like old aerials, there's going to be there is already a series of aerials from 1940s to present on there, which is kind of cool to see.
Yep.
And earlier maps, 1860, 1764. I mean, some really don't have a lot of detail.
Right.
But it's such a neat story.
Well, we will have you back again, JB. There's always something fun to talk about as we get closer to the unveiling of Fish Island or being able to access it. If we end up having a ribbon cutting or some type of celebration, we'll look forward to hearing about it and having you join us again in the break room.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you for coming.
Yes.
As we wrap up another edition of the break room, I hope we answered your questions. If we didn't, take a minute to drop an email to info@citysanog.com. We want to keep you informed about what's happening in and around the city, and most importantly, that you hear it here from the people doing the work and making it happen every day. You can find us on social media on all of our platforms on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram @City St. Aug. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time.
You've been listening to The Break Room, a weekly program about projects and programs offered by the City of St. Augustine. We hope you'll join us each week as host Melissa Whistle and her guests have a conversation that helps you better understand how our city works to meet the needs of our community. See you next time on The Break Room.